Hello everyone, Dokiller here, and welcome to another video. So today we don't have a Minecraft video. I'm going to try something different. And really what started this is I was thinking a lot about the Doctor Who finale, and a lot of different opinions about that, and I thought about making a video ranting and raving about it, but there's really nothing I could say that others haven't said, and said a lot better than I could. So I thought instead of focusing on negative things, why not focus on something positive? And that led to the idea of this. So I'm going to do something I've never tried before, and I'm going to try to review a comic book. And if that's not really your thing, because that's not usually what we do on this channel, you can go ahead and not watch the video. But if you're interested, you can continue watching, and I thank you for that. So what I have up here is a couple issues of a comic book called Cyberfrog Bloodhoney. And this is a comic book that was released about a year ago by a man named Ethan Van Sciver. Now, Ethan is a comic book artist. He worked for DC for a number of years, and he did the art for some of their major properties, such as Green Lantern. He did Green Lantern Rebirth. He did Flash Rebirth. He's a very talented and a professional comic book artist. So, what he did is he actually left the industry a couple years ago to start creating his own book, and he crowdfunded this comic book, Cyberfrog Bloodhoney, and it raised in the original campaign over $600,000. And in subsequent campaigns, it's actually raised over $1 million so far. So, Cyberfrog is a character that he created back in the 1990s. It was originally published by a company called Hall of Heroes, and then it was later published by Harris Comics. Actually, right here I have this was Cyberfrog number 1 by Harris Comics. This again was published in the 90s sometime. I don't remember the exact year off the top of my head, but this is the original book. So Ethan brought the character back and is publishing it himself now through a brand called All Caps Comics, which is his own company. So this was available, as I said, on Indiegogo. There are several campaigns, and I just wanted to review the books. So this was the original issue. This is the first cover. Again, this one's a variant cover. There's a couple other variant covers after that. And if I just take it out here, this is actually a Chromium cover. This is something that hasn't really been done since the 90s, but you can see just how shiny that is. A lot of detail, there's a lot of texture in here. It's really impressive. The cover alone looks just amazing. And if we turn it over on the back, you can see the Chromium there. That's the All Caps Comics label, or logo. And yeah, just this Chromium just adds to the value of the product tremendously, because it is something you don't see anymore. The comic books, they don't make Chromium comics, and Ethan wanted to kind of bring back the 90s and stuff they did back then. So it was kind of really a big time for comics, was the 1990s. So he brought back and he made these Chromium comic books, which is amazing. And if we go on the inside here, you can just see some of that detail. Just in the Chromium, the actual texture is etched in there, and that's really cool to look at. So it's a very high quality book, a really high quality product that has been made. The Chromium is amazing on its own, and actually it is 80 pages thick, so you cannot square bind Chromium. So this is just an ordinary binding for a comic book, but they actually had to try some other stuff here to actually get it to work because of the page count. So that was an impressive thing that I respect the creator, Ethan Van Sciver, for, is the fact that instead of lessening the page count of the book, he kept it high and found a way of actually doing the Chromium and delivering on the page count he said he would. So I want to shout out to the creator for that, because that's something a lot of people might have tried to compromise with, is say, well, if you want the Chromium, I gotta shrink the number of pages. He didn't do that. He kept a high page count and the Chromium, and he found a way to make that work. And so that's extremely impressive. So let's just open it up and get into the book itself. So the first thing that I want to talk about the book, well, first off, it is autographed. Every book through the campaign got a signature on it, which is pretty cool. But the first thing I want to talk about the book is the artwork. So Ethan is a professional comic book artist, as I said, and the art in this book is extremely high quality. Every single panel, Ethan passed over nothing, he skimped on nothing. The detail in this book is just amazing. I don't know how well my camera can capture this, but you can just look in the back. All those trees and everything are hand-drawn. There's a page in here, full page spread, if I can find it. I can... somewhere in the back here. There we go. That's just impressive. All that is hand-drawn. 3-point perspective, the building in the back here, all the detail, it's just amazing. So this is the character Cyberfrog. And every page, every panel is as good as this. It just looks incredible. And the colors in here are done by a man named Kyle Ritter. And he is probably the best colorist I've ever seen. So he really takes... Ethan's a very high detail drawer. He makes extremely a huge amount of detail. You can see that in the character Cyberfrog. The character himself actually takes hours to draw, and because there's so much detail in here. And Kyle Ritter just highlights that detail. He highlights everything with the colors in that, and he does just this phenomenal job. And so the combination of Ethan's art with Kyle Ritter's colors really make for an amazing book. And yeah, this is just, again, one of my favorite pages. I love... he's got these reflective things on his arms, and all the reflection is drawn in there, if you can see that. The buildings, the side of the character's head and everything. It's one of the cool things about this character is you can see stuff reflected in him, and none of the detail is passed over on it. It is all very, very good. So the story in this is broken up into 3 parts, and part 1 is strictly exposition, and it is an origin story about Cyberfrog, so it reintroduces you to the character. So it's not necessary to read any of this stuff from the 90s. You actually get everything you need to know in this one book. So it talks about Cyberfrog, how he was created, where he came from. It introduces you to his character very, very well. We get to see his origins. We get to meet his brother, Salamandroid, which is another one of my favorite pages here. So he's got this big brother named Salamandroid, who's another creature like himself, and we actually find out why Cyberfrog exists, his purpose, and it sets up the character very, very well. It tells us who he is, it kind of gives us an introduction to the stories from the 90s a little bit, and we get to see who this character is, and we meet Cyberfrog's friend, Heather Swain. I cannot get a good picture of that, but Heather is also a very important character in the book. And so it does a very good job of introducing us and setting up the rest of the story. So this is issue 1 of a 4-part story, and this just sets us up with what happens, why it happened, and everything else, and is a very good character introduction to Cyberfrog as well. So going on into part 2, we just get to see what happened back in 1998 with Cyberfrog, and when this invasion happened. And so we get to see a little bit of Heather and Cyberfrog and Salamandroid. We get to know more about these characters, and again, a bit more like the 90s, and we get to see this invasion, which is of these giant alien wasps that kind of swarm in and take over Earth. And we find out what happens to Cyberfrog back in the 1990s, and where he's been for the last 20 years. And he wakes up 20 years later in part 3 and finds out what happened to the entire world. And so that's just a brief synopsis of the story. It's got a very good cliffhanger ending. And then at the end of the book, we get a bit of a gallery. So we get to see some of the creation of the character of Cyberfrog himself. We get to see some artwork behind the scenes. We get to see the cover art and the line art as well, which looks really neat. And all in all, I just want to say that this book is very, very well done. The artwork is the most impressive part, in my opinion. Everything in here is just so well done. This character, just high detail, he looks really cool. I love Salamandroid even better. He's just this really awesome character. He's a bit of a fan favorite, but the story flows really well. The explanation, the origins of the character is handled extremely well. And the setup for the story is very good. Now, because this is part 1, the story, as I said, ends on a cliffhanger, so we don't know what happens. And it leaves you wondering a lot. It sets up, this book is almost purely set up for the ending, for the next part of the story. So the reason that I'm kind of reviewing this, I've had this for a little while, and I've chosen now to take the time to review it, is because I mentioned this was one part of a 4-part series. The second part in this book, Cyberfrog Rekt Planet, is about to go live on Indiegogo. And as of right now, actually, you can sign up to get notified when that goes live. There's some special perks that come with that. And I thought I would just give a quick shout out to Ethan and to his book, Cyberfrog, just in a quick video, review it, and try something new, different for the channel, because usually I do just a bunch of gaming stuff. So this was actually a very enjoyable book, and as I said, just the artwork in here is probably the most impressive part. Ethan is a very, very good artist. And as of right now, he's actually got a campaign going where you can get some of the original 1990 Cyberfrog stuff from Hall of Heroes. The first and second ever Cyberfrog book published is available in an Indiegogo campaign. It's being reprinted, and Kyle Ritter, who did the colors in this book, is also doing the colors for it, because it was originally printed in black and white. So with that campaign, you can also get a copy of Cyberfrog Bloodhoney if you want to. There's a different cover than this one, a different variant cover. There's line art covers available if you wanted to read Bloodhoney. And there's also a preview for the upcoming book, Rekt Planet, and that is currently a live campaign. So I was going to put a link to that in the description. And if anybody's interested in Cyberfrog and checking that out, you can go over to that campaign. There's links in the description. And also, Ethan has a YouTube channel called Comic Artist Pro Secrets, and you can look that up on YouTube as well. So that's just a very quick video I wanted to do, reviewing this book. It's very different from what I usually do, so I understand if not a lot of people watch this video. But if you have watched it and you've made it this far to the end of the video, then I want to thank you for doing that. I hope you're interested, that I've introduced you to something new. This is an indie comic book, and as I said, a very professional artist, and just a very great book that I wanted to advertise because I don't think a lot of people know about it. So thank you, as always, everyone, for watching. This is a different sort of video, so thank you very, very much for watching it. That's all I had planned for today, and I'll be going back to more of my regular content very, very soon. And until then, everybody, I will see you in that video, so goodbye for now.